Hi, today is a really good day because we have with us Kyle with oh, there you went, with Berding Weil. They do a lot of construction litigation in the islands as well as on the mainland. So we're really happy to have them here with us. And we're going to be talking about pipe replacement and some of the horrors that can come along with it. I know it's not an easy job. The majority of condos, and still a lot more condos, still have to do pipe replacements. And it's a big, heavy, costly job. So it's going to take a lot of learning, insights. The board needs to be really diligent on learning the information of the product that they're going to use, because there's essentially like 4 different types out there that can be used. But we really want the board to be aware when they're doing this. Yeah, this one might be cheaper, but what is the life of it? What is the potential life of it? Because if it has a shorter lifespan, you potentially could be costing you more money than if you used a traditional product that most plumbing traditionally is copper, but we know that there's some are being changed to either ABS or there's some other products. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kyle to give us a little recap of what we're going to learn at the seminar on February 13th, 2025. It is an in-person seminar at Oahu Country Club with a buffet lunch that we normally do. So I am happy to introduce Kyle with Berding Weil.
Thank you for having me, Raelene. It's good to be back. I wanted to just give an overview of our event that we're hosting, as Raelene said, February 13th at the Oahu Country Club. During the lunch period, we will talk and give a presentation on pipe dreams and sewer nightmares when plumbing goes down the drain. And that title is set that way to deal with the circumstance that we see across all the islands. There are many buildings that are frankly older, and because of their age, they're built in anywhere from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s. The useful life of their building components is coming to an end. And specifically, today we're talking about the plumbing pipes. And these can be pipes that are in your walls that are part of your drinking water system, your shower system, all of your appliances. It also includes sewer pipes, which takes waste out, which is a separate system. But we're going to focus today primarily on the drinking water or water appliance systems. We call them potable water systems. So as Raelene mentioned, the context for today's talk is we have many buildings that have potable water plumbing pipes that are at the end of their useful life. So what do we do as a board or an association? There are several options that are available to it, and our talk will discuss those options. It'll discuss 3 primary phases. The design phase of identifying the different product types available and selecting one. The legal review phase, which is where a legal team reviews contracts to minimize the risks associated with each of these products, because each product has a trade-off. And finally, the implementation phase, which is how do you actually logistically put this in? It's a massive endeavor to replace all the potable water pipes in your walls. So those are what we're going to primarily focus on during our talk on February 13th. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have, Raelene, on that as we dive into it today.
So essentially, as a condominium, when you're talking about pipe replacements, we're gonna at the seminar we're gonna also talk about the 4 different type of pipe replacement materials. Um, and, um, and some of the downsides of using certain types of materials. I think one of my big thing is, the lining. Because I know, and I told Kyle this earlier, I know, although I live in a single family and my husband knows how to do plumbing, he worked for a plumber. So it was built in 1960 and it had all galvanized. So he replaced it with copper. He got up to just one more bathroom that he didn't do. But he showed me a piece of the pipe, what it looked like inside. And the words out of my mouth was like, we're drinking water out of there. I mean, you can see the corrosion. And then the one bathroom that he still hadn't completed yet, I think it was like last year, I had gutted the bathroom because I wanted to redo the floor. And the vanity top, which was the original from 1960, was leaking into the cabinet. And I wanted to save the cabinet because it was solid wood built in. I didn't want that cheap plywood kind of stuff, so I wanted to preserve the cabinet. So I got up on a Saturday morning, all ready to paint the inside, start painting. And like the bottom is all wet. It's full of water. And I'm like, where's there's no faucet. So where's the water coming from? Crawl in there. And we had an opening in the wall and I could hear the misting noise. So I poked my head in there. And sure enough, that one section that we hadn't completed yet finally pukaed through. And it's not covered by insurance, because of my contractor friends, call the insurance company. And it's like, so I did. And they go, we don't insure that part. It's not, because it's maintenance. And I go, well, how can you maintain something in between the walls? But anyway, so I ended up having to have a contractor. They've replaced it. But when I was talking to him, he said it's rusting from the inside out. And it just took something to move a piece of rust that puked it through, But had not been renovating that bathroom, I would never have known. It would, it was just a matter of timing. And it could have been probably a bigger disaster. And one of the things that I like about what he did was, as he was replacing the pipe, he put a shutoff. So if I had any issues in the bathroom regarding the toilet or the faucet or the shower, I had a shutoff right there versus going outside and finding the main shutoff. So sometimes when you're doing plumbing, and even if you're doing a pipe replacement, I think the boards need to consider adding in shutoffs so that you can minimize the damage once you find where it's leaking as well. It might add a few more dollars, but then again, in the long run, we know water causes a heavy amount of damage to a condominium unit. So those are one things for the boards also to consider. And like Kyle also said, the review of all your contracts and working with professionals, working with your design professionals. And they also look at the contracts as well. And they know the personalities of a lot of the major players in the plumbing market, every contractor market. They know the major players. They know the plus and minuses. They know what they're capable of doing, and they know what they're capable of not doing. So it's important to involve these professionals, your legal team, to make sure you look at those contracts. I know I had one where the board didn't feel like they needed to submit the contract for review, but after discussion, it was finally sent to the legal team for review. Came back with a big long list of stuff the attorney didn't like. Okay, so we want to make sure in this seminar that everybody really gets the clear understanding about, before you start the work, no matter what it is, any kind of contract that involves a contract, you go through a legal review. If you're going to take on something big, such as like a plumbing, when you're involving a lot of money, you want to make sure you have a design professional on board as well, because they can take on the responsibility of sending in the estimates out or sending the RFPs out for bids, and they can review them first. They're the experts. So we need to, utilize these people that's their job, what they do. I know as far as contracts, some people think that, oh, well, it's a simple job. We don't really need to have it done. But no, you really do, because you'll be surprised. Some things that you never thought of that the attorney's going to pick up on. I was involved in one. We finally got the board to send it to legal review. It came back with a big long wash list of stuff that the attorney didn't like, and there were important things. And when we sent it back to them to change or update it, we never heard back from them. So that, to me, that was a red flag. If you don't hear back from them, it's a red flag. So at the seminar, what we're really going to present to everybody is the nightmares that can happen, the 4 different types of products. I mean, if you can replace it back with copper, there's a new product out there called PEX. There's PVC, which is the white tube. Sewer is the black tube, or relining. And some of them come with nightmares. But when you're dealing, and that's important because when you're dealing with a water leak, and it could be a pipe leak, but when you're dealing with a leak in a condo, you're having to shut off the whole building. Like for me, I would have to shut off the whole house, but we did an individual shut off just for that bathroom. So when I do other repairs, that's what I'm going to be doing in all the other bathrooms, is doing individual shutoffs. It might be a little bit costly, but think about it in the long run. And when they're doing pipe, have you seen, Kyle, in some of these where they're doing the pipe replacement, have they started to think about doing access panels?
Definitely helps. Yes, I've seen access panels get put in, especially when there are multiple leaks throughout a building. It's usually after several leaks that a site manager or general manager starts to put in access panels, realizing that there may be a problem, so that having easy access will make a further comprehensive repair a little bit simpler. But you bring up a good point, Raelene, about how to maintain these pipes. And maintaining plumbing pipes it's difficult, and we're aware of that. For an association, it's a challenge because they're not visible. They're hidden behind walls. It's not like asphalt in your parking lot that you see every day when you walk outside. These are hidden behind walls. So as you described, for most people, they discover they have a problem when there is a bad problem. It's not only started leaking, because usually they're pinhole leaks and they're small, but those have grown into larger leaks or caused more damage. So the typical owner discovers these issues when there's a massive problem that he has to fix. So maintaining it is a challenge, and that's why we say, for whether it's maintenance or for the purposes of the conversation on February 13th for replacement, we recommend a trinity of professionals to look at this, which includes, as Raelene mentioned, a contractor who's familiar with this type of work, can install, repair, or install whatever product you want to install. But then also a design professional, and the design professionals are like engineers or forensic architects who have experience with the products and is familiar with the building, how it operates, can review the building drawings, the plans, and identify different areas around a building to see what the condition of the pipe is. So you can imagine, if you have a high rise, many floors, how do you get a general understanding of the condition of the pipes when you could be hundreds of units? It's not economically feasible to go open up every unit and look at the pipes behind the walls. So an architect or an engineer can help an association or a board identify, all right, these let's take samples from these floors, and from that we can have a pretty good idea of what the condition is throughout the building. So you have a design professional who's part of that trinity, and then the third person is the legal professionals who are able to review the contracts. And Raelene, you mentioned earlier just difficulties with contracts. We understand and appreciate that having someone review the contracts, a lawyer probably isn't the most exciting or pleasant thing to do. And a lot of the comments that you could get back may seem nitpicky, but it's important. We highly recommend it because contracts are, especially if they're not drafted by the association, they're drafted in a way that shifts the risk disproportionately upon the association away from whoever it is who drafted the contract. So we've dealt with cases where there were contracts that had horrendous terms in them, and it was one of the nightmare scenarios where it was a relining project that in a high rise, two buildings, high rise towers. The potable water system was leaking throughout, so the board decided to do a relining project. And so the relining material is an epoxy. It's something that you have to, it's kind of like concrete in a way. You pour it, you let it sit, it dries and gets rigid. So this epoxy, they had to pour it essentially inside the already failing pipes, and they had technology or equipment that they use that would, in theory, uniformly apply the epoxy throughout the building. Well, the epoxy failed, and then there was lots of epoxy in the drinking water, which was a nightmare. Now the contract for that with that contractor essentially said the contractor will provide a warranty, and the warranty is the only legal repair option available to the association. So that was a term that was a limitation on remedies, we call it. That was a red flag for us when we saw it. And so that was a problem. The other term said, and the warranty repair will be a replacement of the product. Well, if you have an epoxy lined pipe, just think of a straight run, a straw. If you line the inside of that straw with an epoxy, that's one continuous piece of rigid plastic or rigid material. If that epoxy fails, how do you restore that one smooth, continuous epoxy liner on the inside? Unless you rip out the entire liner and reinstall it, it's very difficult to do a pure repair. Instead, what the contractor was doing was tearing out a portion of the pipe or the straw, and then reinstalling a new straw without the liner on the inside. Now, the problem with that is then you have a discontinuous liner on the inside of that straw. So you'll have a portion where it's the smooth lining, and then you'll have a gap where you just have a new pipe, and then another portion with the smooth lining. Well, that gap causes further problems in that system. So the warranty repair, which to an average person would seem like a reasonable contract term, oh, we get a contractor to come out and repair the product if it fails. That's great. Well, it wasn't actually a true repair, and it essentially kicked the can down the road and created more problems and more leaks in the system. But that was the only option that the association had under that contract. So that's a long way of saying the contract terms they're tricky, and they can be fraught with problems for associations. So that's why you need a legal professional to identify those problems and get rid of them, frankly, in a contract.
And you mentioned we were talking about contracts. So following February 13th is Berding Weil and plumbing. And then in April, we have Cass and Turner that's going to educate us on the contracts. So you guys, so the boards are going to have some really good extensive education on plumbing horrors, and then on from a legal team of contracts. So you guys are going to be prepared when you take on plumbing or even take on any project that involves a contract. So you're going to get educated in 2025, the beginning of 2025 for those two subjects. And they're from some of the top legal teams. Berding Weil and Kaz and Turner both have offices here. They're also on the mainland. So they're pretty large firms with a lot of experience to educate us on the aware of scenarios and to try to keep us. We're already suffering high maintenance fees, so we really have to be very diligent. I would say double diligent so that we don't waste our money by some things that could have been avoidable, by following the right path of making sure you're working with professionals and your legal teams to keep you out of litigation. That's the big thing. Not good for attorneys,
exactly.
but
that's the goal.
Yeah.
For associations. Raelene, earlier you mentioned the product types that are available for these pipe repairs or replacements, and I just want to touch on those quickly here so that people will have a heads up on what we will discuss on the 13th. So the product types that are available, you can think of them generally as you have various iron or metals, I'll say. So cast iron and copper were traditionally were used in building trades, in building many of these buildings. Actually, the more modern variants nowadays are you have various polymer types, so plastics, and under that category we will want to flag a product called PEX. It's cross-linked polyethylene pipe, and that is a somewhat flexible pipe that can be bent at turns instead of requiring a fitting, a 90-degree fitting that you then solder into copper pipes. This you could bend the somewhat flexible plastic pipe. That's another option. And then the third option, so you have the metals, the plastics. The third option is the epoxy liners. So this is the previous two, metals and plastics. So to repair a problem, a system at the end of its useful life, the repair would be a pure replacement. You would, if it's possible, take the old pipes out, put new pipes in, or just put new pipes in next to the old pipes. The reliner is not a replacement. That utilizes the rigid structure, or what's remaining of it, of the original pipes, and then you install an epoxy, oftentimes an epoxy inside of the original pipes, seals it, and effectively creates a new rigid pipe on the inside of your current pipes. So those will be the 4-ish product types that we will discuss in February. Each product type has its benefits and trade-offs, and as you can imagine, based on our title, we will have some feedback on what we're seeing in the industry here in Hawaii. And I could just preview now that for PEX, just quickly, I'll say there are many active cases in Hawaii, on Oahu especially, involving failing PEX pipe. And PEX that leaks, it starts as a pinhole, it turns into a larger leak, and these cases involve an almost extremely high number of failures. We have a case on that we're dealing with currently. It was a 55-unit condominium complex that had PEX piping, and the PEX piping failed around 80 times, had 80 leaks over the course of a couple of years. So our firm has many PEX cases in Hawaii and across the country, frankly, or in other states in the country, that give us pause when we have a client who is considering replacing their current piping system with PEX. So our hope with this presentation is that we can share with you some of the concerns, some of the realities we're seeing in terms of failures, and then offer what we can to help minimize the risk. So we understand that boards will make decisions for various reasons, but we just hope that we can help to provide the information so that the boards can make an informed decision, or a more informed decision, on how to handle these plumbing nightmares.
Right. Yeah. Because we all, as board members, we have a fiduciary duty. We represent all the owners. And part of that duty is really is watching the money, so we have to be very money conscious. And in today's world, with everything being so expensive, it's even more so. So we really, I would say boards can't afford to have these costly mistakes if they're avoidable. They really need to, and that's why we're putting this on, just because, Kyle, you're with Berding Weil, you've seen what's been out there. You've seen what's happening, seen the horrors of plumbing, right? So this is a heads up for everybody to consider when they're choosing out what product they're going to use, and the method, and then also making sure everything's reviewed by your professionals.
That's right. Unfortunately, plumbing sometimes stinks.
Yeah. Just like trash. Okay. Kyle, I want to thank you for being with me today. It's very informative. And so our seminar that Kyle will be presenting is on February 13th, 2025 at the Oahu Country Club. Check-in opens around 10:30. We will have a new added feature that we're doing for this seminar. We have vendor tables. So there's going to be some vendors. That's why check-in is going to open a little bit earlier, so that gives people time to mingle, go to each table. And I'm kind of excited about that because that's the first time we've done that. So we're not doing a big event, space capacity. We have about 10 different vendors. Some of them are plumbing. One does high-risk component inspections, which a lot of condos are not fully engaged in doing that on a regular basis. And we have a couple lenders that are also going to be present. So we really invite you guys to meet these individuals, mingle with them, ask the questions that you need to ask them. Feel free to ask them. And we hope to have a sample of PEX and some of the other materials so you can see for yourself. Touch, feel, ask questions. And we'll figure out if we have some other things that we can also have as far as handouts and presentation for you to attend. And then following the February, our next one is in April, and that one's going to be by Caston Turner. He's going to go take the deep dive into contracts. So he's going to educate us on contracts, the horrors of contracts, good contract versus a bad contract, and what we need in a contract to keep us out of litigation. And one of the last things that we always forget, the job is done, everybody's happy, everybody got paid, but we don't have the piece of paper with the warranty. So making sure that we have that warranty information, whether it's included in the contract or if it's a separate warranty, a manufacturer's warranty on the product, as well as the contractor's warranty. So two types of warranties that would be prudent to have and make sure we have. Okay. So thank you, Kyle. I will see you on the 13th at Oahu Country Club. We're looking forward to it. And thank you, everybody, for another edition of Condo Insider. And we will look forward. You can register online at hawaiiconsole.org.